the other mic.
That heifer right there just don't even care. Bingo. Action. Another button to push. Thank you, StreamYard. I appreciate you.
Mr. Mike Conley said you was eating a moon pie.
Well, I wish I had a moon pie. That does sound pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Mr. Mike, man, doggone you.
Good one, Mr. Mike.
Yep. Hope everybody having a fine evening on this Resurrection Sunday.
Yes.
We've had a good day. Beautiful, beautiful weather. Could use just a little bit of rain. About a good days of just good spring rain. Nothing crazy. But other than that, y'all, it has been some fine weather.
Yes.
Actually, a bit of spring instead of it just going to the next extreme. But yeah.
I gotta be in the mood for it, Mr. Dan. It ain't a go-to, that's for sure.
But they are good.
Once in a while.
The banana moon pie is the best to me.
Banana or chocolate?
Yeah, peanut butter.
Terrible.
Nah.
Vanilla is terrible.
Don't want that mess. Either
any of the newfangled ones are probably terrible.
They are.
All right. Cover food. Get off the moon.
Let me mosey through here and holler at everybody right fast.
I don't want to talk about sugar.
No sugar. Yeah. She got loaded on.
Yeah. Oh, Lee's honey. I hadn't seen Lee in here.
No, we pulled she cooked a ham today and she was gonna put a honey glaze on it, if you will, or just load that bad boy down with honey. Real honey.
Yeah.
And Lee had given us some whenever we
honey.
Yeah, some of his fall when we went and did the in studio live. Well, February we did that. And she finally cracked the seal.
I've been saving it for a special occasion. I was like, ooh, that ham's a special occasion.
And she put a good amount on there, got that ham looking good, what have you. Well, then before you knew it, she was picking at that ham and loading it up with honey. And before she knew it, she done probably got about 1.5 inches, 2 inches of that bottle gone. Yeah. That was full.
I shocked myself.
So,
I just couldn't quit eating it. It was good.
I had to set her down. She's like one of them 5-year-olds you give a couple pieces of candy to. She was gone. So
whatever.
I got her tied down right now. We'll cut her loose in a little bit when she settles down. So
yeah. I was coming down off the sugar, so he gave me coffee to back myself up. Whatever. It was worth it.
It was. It was good.
Do your shout
out. C. Grayson got first. I think Mr. Mike Conley got second there.
It deleted it though.
It did. Jack and Danae. Jay, he was in here. Miss Deb. Boy, I know we had some pretty weather. She had some fine weather on the beaches down
Oh
there.
yeah.
Mr. Keith Spillman up there in the fine country. Mike Tang way. Hope y'all are thawing out some up there. What is this? Did I say Grayson, Miss Deb Barnhill Bees, Mr. Russell Amon over there, misbehaving, misbehaving. Mike.
Get it right, though.
I got it wrong.
Good grief.
Did I get Barnhill?
I don't know.
Barnhill Bee Disasters. Mr. Dan Weaver, Clay, good to see you, bro. Who else am I get missing here? Ricky. Jack, good to see you, bro. Brian and Jen, I think so, for a few minutes anyway. If I missed you, I do apologize.
Brian, he is falling asleep in his chair right now. And yeah, he had corn dogs in hand today.
Oh, they was bumming. Don't y'all fret. Jasper was sitting there like, I know there's a ham bone in there. Is there any chance y'all can just kind of, get that on out of there for me? Don't worry about your pot of lima beans that you want. Let me get that ham bone.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole reason I dumped on baking that ham. It's like, man, I want some lima beans so bad.
Oh yeah, well that'll be next week after we finish the ham off and get the ham bone and woo, buddy, you talk about some fine.
Dude.
But yeah, like I said, ain't too much been going on. I was really thinking the privet has been blooming down here, but it hasn't really just kind of taken off as it usually does. But I did catch a good heavy aroma in the air the last couple of days. So it is finally cranking on up. That's why I'm saying if we could get a good day or so with some rain, it'll crank everything on off real good.
The privet and the that Confederate jasmine is blooming like crazy over there.
Oh yeah.
All over that.
What else? China berry is blooming real good this year. Pretty much everything's looking good right now, except for
that's gonna be too much to type.
What's that?
Mr. Dan. No, we haven't got anything yet, but nothing's opened up there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Hadn't really seen much of anything moving. No, we didn't get to go check them this weekend. So I guess there could be.
There's two.
Not that we know of right now.
But it seems like the swarms are they're not quite there yet, I guess. We've had a few, you hear people chirping about, getting on, but it's not that.
Not many at all yet.
Full on.
The swarm season.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because Sarah's obviously in swarm season.
Mm-hmm. But around here and even over there at Lance's that we know of since last time we was there, nothing has swarmed over there either. And he's just about 4 miles south of us. So
yeah,
I think, like I said, maybe this privet getting a little aroma in the air, getting itself kicked up, that perhaps encourage some more swarming before too long.
Yeah.
Lord willing. But that little bunch down there we got the other week, those girls are doing phenomenal.
Oh, Stephen, I bet that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
A cutout on an 1857 antebellum house. I don't know if I could have quit drilling over the house long enough to cut out the beads.
That, and you know where I'd be going over that.
Can I metal detect?
Yes. Can I please metal detect? You'll never know I was out in your yard. I don't leave holes or, gullies and stuff like that whenever we metal detect. Please. I tell you what, if you'll let me do it, I might knock a little bit off this cutout charge a little bit here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, that would have been awesome. Awesome, awesome. Love them old homes.
Oh no. That's heartbreaking. There's a lot of them around the little town we talk about all the time, where my grandma's house is up there. He said that there was a lot of disrepair on the outside.
Yes.
It's like you see all them old houses that could be like phenomenal homes that people are just letting go. Like it's sad. It's so sad driving through the old part of town up there.
There's I don't know. It's just we'll have to show y'all one day, but there's several different styles of homes up there between, just like the old log cabin. Then you have, don't get me wrong, but there's a few Gothic style and
that's never cool, ever. In any context. Said he charged him $200 extra because he was dropping racial slurs.
Well, that'll get
That's
you extra charges. Yep. Ain't no need to be
ain't no need for
rude.
anybody to be ugly.
No. But
Well, Keith said his swarms are about a month late, but his blooms are right on time.
okay, so it ain't just us then. All right.
No, wasn't Joey talking there?
I think
swarms were late for him. Like his weren't ready to split yet, and they should be, or something. I can't remember. I thought it was him saying something.
I don't know. It may be one of them years to where it's just slow all season, or it may be a slow and overwhelmed, honey-bound situations, which could be a good thing. But you want to do your prayer list? Because y'all, since it's the day that we recognize as a lot of us say Easter or Resurrection Sunday, once again, Pastor Larry and Miss Jan and Miss Leona, she's in the background watching. Y'all send her some love. Miss
Leona's always with.
Yep. But Pastor Larry's going to come on again, and I think if he's up for it, we may try to make this a yearly run for Gun Line and Hallelujah Bee Farm. Yep, because
that's what you call it.
Pastor Larry come on last year and give us a good message, and he agreed once again this year to come on and do the same. So he's going to come in and give us a message on death, burial, and resurrection. And then we'll get into some beekeeping chit chat. I know they've had some beautiful days up there too, and been able to perhaps tinker with their bees a little bit. We'll see what they got happening after Pastor Larry delivers the word. But I see Mr. Randy here. Okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. It's all you.
I missed you. All right, we got Mr. Mark Miller and Miss Crystal, his wife, Ed and his family, the Dirt Rooster's dad, Mr. Pat, Miss Deb, Mike Tangway and his family, DC's parents, baby Luca, Deanna Wheeler and her son Reed, Rachel Wilson, Rachel's sister Amanda, and their niece Riley, Philip's mama, his friends BJ and his wife, Bobby's Bees and his family, Mr. Larry Gandy and his family, Hillbilly Earl and his family, Miss Leona, Steve Amos's father-in-law and their family, PJ Hanley and his family, Catherine's son and his family, Sarah and her family, Mr. Randy's mother-in-law, Miss Janae Wood, Kenneth and Chris Wilkinson, Terry Bertalan, Redfish's wife, Miss Janet, Kimberly Schmidt's daughter-in-law, Amanda, and her mama, Kenneth Allen, Miss Dolores, Peppa Rookie, Denny Ray, Keith Larimore's wife, Miss Brenda, James Creel, Clay Bunner, Steve-O, Rodney Middleton, and Kathy Baker's friend, Miss Williams.
You
So,
mentioned Baby Lucas.
mhm.
I'm sorry, I guess I was just tuned out on comment on that, but everybody, Lord knows we need prayers, but it's just a little bit more difficult when it comes to these youngins trying to understand things, I guess. But little baby Luca, be sure to keep that fella showing up right there in him. That fella's had quite the journey so far in his few little years on this earth, but we're going to continue to pray that Lord deliver that baby out of that heart trouble without having to get another heart. But
Whatever the Lord's will.
that's it. We'll honor his will, that's for sure. But all right, y'all. If there's anybody we needed to add to or take away from, absolutely the unspoken, because there are some of those. Mr. Dan, I'm glad you brought that up real quick. Absolutely remember that unspoken as well.
I think if we're honest, we probably all got at least one of those.
I got two on mine, so yeah, I'm right there with y'all. They tested my patience this week, but we're gonna get into this. Have a good word from Pastor Larry. Bring them on in, and let's see. If I can get them in here without.
I think I gave you my prayer book here in church this morning.
It's in my Bible.
It's okay.
All right, I got you, Pastor Larry.
Well, good evening.
All right.
Here we go.
I'm gonna take you up on that offer if it stands. Just put us on the calendar for making an annual event. I'm up for that.
Ooh,
All right. Yes, sir.
I started the morning out at 6:45, getting to talk about one of my favorite things to talk about, the resurrection, and we're gonna finish up the evening doing the same thing. So we appreciate the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yes,
we
sir.
love having y'all.
We do. Yeah, Hannah told me yesterday, she's like, have you called Pastor Larry about that? Because I mentioned it to her the other day, and I was like, no.
Last weekend, we talked about it, and I was like, you need to call Pastor Larry because they might have family plans. Okay, I'll call him tomorrow. I put it out of my mind. Then last night, I was like, hey, did you talk to them?
Let me get a hold to the man.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you. And me and my last minuteness, we appreciate you coming on, and absolutely look forward, as the Lord wills, however many years, to have you come on each year.
Well, it's a man thing on calling, so we understand.
I appreciate you understanding.
We on the same page. We're good.
Thanks, sir. Yeah. Thanks, sir. But for anybody that may want to, we're going to dive into a little bit of scripture. So we'll give you a second if you want to follow along to get the good book and sit down and get it open. But where was you going to go to first, Pastor Larry?
Matthew 28.
Got a good little crowd. All right. We appreciate everybody being in here. Got a good little crowd this evening, y'all. Appreciate you.
It's always good to see everybody in the chat. We don't get on much, but we love seeing the chat over there every week. There's a lot of conversation to go on over on that sidebar.
Yes, sir.
Tim and Hannah's not the only ones that derail along the way. Those chats can go in a lot of different directions all at one time. Sometimes you have to go back and trace it back. Now, where was that comment? Who was that for? What was that about?
Well, there's a lot of time. I'm so slow at typing as it is anyway. By the time I even get out what I want to say, it's pretty well into a new conversation a lot of times. So I just delete whatever I'm going to say prior to, and it's like, well, we get back to it maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there and done that too. I type like an old man. All right.
Well,
Y'all
All
ready
right.
for me?
Yes, sir.
All right. We're going to get into this is what I would call our part of the traditional scripture we expect around this time of year. And just one account, Matthew's account of things taking place. I'm going to begin Matthew 28 in the first verse and read the first 10 verses. It says, Now after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week began to dawn, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb. And behold, there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord descended from heaven, and came and rolled back the stone from the door, and sat on it. His countenance was like lightning, his clothing as white as snow, and the guards shook for fear of him, and became like dead men. But the angel answered and said to the women, Do not be afraid, for I know that you seek Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he is risen, as he said. Come, see the place where the Lord lay, and go quickly and tell his disciples that he is risen from the dead, and indeed he is going before you into Galilee. There you will see him. Behold, I have told you. So they went out quickly from the tomb with fear and great joy, and ran to bring his disciples word. And as they went to tell his disciples, behold, Jesus met them, saying, Rejoice! So they came and held him by the feet and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brethren to go to Galilee, and there they will see me. So, from the accounts that we have, the different viewpoints, we can see those events. And today I kind of talked to our folks at church and told them, a lot of times we go back and try to replay these events and, try to imagine what it might have looked like. But one of the things that I kind of encourage everybody to do, and I would, I guess, anybody, that not to focus as much on, well, let me say for today, we just took time to not focus as much on the details of the event as we did the purpose of it and what the effects of it are. Because, we can learn all scripture, we can learn the scriptures, but if we don't apply it, then we miss out. And so I love to just sit back and think about, what it means to us today. Had it not been, the resurrection, that's a big deal. Everything that we believe as a Christian is founded right here on this one event that took place. Had it not been, Jesus could have been born, he could have come, he could have went to the cross, but had it not been for the resurrection, and that's, I mentioned, I'm going to read a few verses from 1 Corinthians chapter 15 here in a moment, when Paul was talking about this, because during that time there were some folks that said, I believe the Sadducees, they didn't believe in the resurrection, and so even following this time, there were those that said that there was no resurrection, and Paul was addressing that, and so he puts it pretty plain, because that is the foundation of our faith. That is the foundation, because there's been a lot of religious leaders over the years. There's been a lot of religions set up with someone at the head, but some of them some worshiped, of course, material idols, but some worship, individuals, but those have been dead and buried, and still dead and buried. But the difference is Christ, yes, he was dead, and yes, he was buried, but the others hadn't been resurrected. So the resurrection, it went back and you take the Jews that were there, they knew all about the Old Testament. They knew that the scriptures that had been given, all the prophecies that had been given about the Messiah. And while it didn't look like what they thought it was going to look like when the Messiah came, while they had this picture, this image of what he was going to do, and they wanted him to straighten out the government, and take over and be in charge and all of that. And so, but he had bigger plans. And so they understood that the things that had been foretold, but when he came, he didn't come like they thought he was going to come. And so when we get over into 1 Corinthians, let me just jump in there and read starting in verse 14, because Paul's addressing that in that day, there were some that said there was no resurrection. And I'm just going to read it all because I think we can keep it in context a little better that way, for the majority of it. Starting in verse 14 of chapter 15. Said, now if Christ is preached that he has been raised from the dead, how do some among you say there is no resurrection of the dead? But if there is no resurrection of the dead, then Christ is not risen. And if Christ is not risen, then our preaching is empty, and your faith is also empty. Yes, and we are found false witnesses of God, because we have testified of God that he raised up Christ, whom he did not raise up, if in fact the dead do not rise. For if the dead do not rise, then Christ is not risen. And if Christ is not risen, your faith is futile. You're still in your sins. Then also those who have fallen asleep in Christ have perished. If in this life only we have hope in Christ, we are all men the most pitiable. So he's saying basically, and there's some powerful words in there, but it's a clear picture when you sit back and look at it and think about it. Our forgiveness of sin, it all depended upon what Christ did. And so he was saying, if there is no resurrection, then Christ couldn't be resurrected, because what couldn't be true for one and not be true for the others. And so for those who were making that argument about no resurrection, he said, everything that we have told you, because their testimony was of their God, serving a living God and serving Christ, who came, lived, died, was buried, and resurrected. And that was their message. That was the gospel. That's what they were. And the Bible itself says that the gospel is the power of God, to transform people and to change us. So they're saying everything we've told you is a lie if that's not true. And everything we believe is worthless if that's not true. So really everything as the Christian faith hinges on the resurrection. And so we read the account from Matthew, and of course we can go into other gospels and read it as well. And you can go back and look at historical accounts as well of the time of the resurrection. And so it's a big deal. That's one reason I love talking about it so much, because everything that we have hinges on that. But when Paul was talking about this and making this case, and just kind of putting it out there plain, that we're still just as lost as we were had it not been for the resurrection. If the Spirit didn't have the power to raise Jesus up out of that tomb, we'd be just like we were. But we're not. And that's where he goes on. I stopped reading in verse 19, but let me just read a couple more verses in 1 Corinthians 15, because he says all that. And then when he gets to verse 20, he says this. He says, but now Christ is risen from the dead and has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ all shall be made alive. I highlighted that when I wrote it down. But now Christ is risen. So he's saying all these things are worth nothing if he hadn't risen. But Paul makes it very plain. But now Christ has risen from the dead. And that's my story. And we're sticking to it because it comes straight from the word. And we got that to stand on, and the church is being given the opportunity, the assignment, the responsibility to carry the good news, to carry this message of the God who loves us, the Savior who came to provide, to restore us back into that relationship. And he came through his death, burial, and resurrection. And so we've been given that assignment. But because of that resurrection power, there's a couple of verses that I like to hang on when I think about our responsibility as the church. And the church is not an organization; the church is the people. And I tell people sometimes that's a scary thought when you look into the mirror and you think, "Hey, I am the church." That's our responsibility. But when Christ, in Matthew 28, when Christ was getting ready, he had already been crucified, and he was getting ready to ascend back to heaven. He makes a statement there in Matthew 28 that says, all power has been given unto me in heaven and in earth. And the very next thing he says, therefore, you go. In other words, he said, all power has been given to me, but he also had said, like the Father sent me, I'm sending you. So he said, all power has been given, therefore, you go into all the world. You go make disciples. You go tell them what I told you. Teach them what I taught you. And so that's the responsibility of the church. So, along with power and authority given to the church, we have a great responsibility as well. But I look at it as a great blessing to know that there's no assignment that he can give us that he hadn't provided the power for. The same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead, he says the same one that lives inside of you and me. And so it's a wonderful time. It's a wonderful thing for me to have my faith in him. And it's all anchored right here in the power of of the resurrection. It confirmed what the Old Testament had told them. Those who had studied, they didn't understand what was happening, but they had studied that and they had seen everything that had been foretold and prophesied about what was going to take place. And when Christ was resurrected, it confirmed that word that this is the Son of God. He is the Messiah. And from that point on, we can look at all the other things that's been foretold, and we're living it now. The things that we're living in, I mean, go back to the Old Testament. We're living what the Old Testament talked about. We're that church. We're in these last days. We're the ones carrying that banner and proclaiming the good news of Christ and talking about his life, talking about his sacrifice, talking about his invitation, if you will, to come follow him and just take up our cross and follow after him. I've never experienced the kind of love that God has poured out upon me and upon everyone. But when you receive that and accept it, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I'll try not to talk too long, but I enjoy just thinking about the power of the resurrection because I recognize that we are serving a living God. We're serving, he's still alive and well. Holy Spirit lives on the inside of us. It says we're the temple of the Holy Spirit. We're his hands, his feet. And man, what an opportunity that is to be the hands and feet. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that he leads and guides in such a way. And just opportunities like this. I mean, to meet y'all and meet the other ones I see in the chat, the different ones we've met, and some we've never met in person. But it's just like I'm closer to some people I see in here in the chats than I am, people that stay right here near me. He just opens that door, and so we've got several people, and I mean I appreciate when I see those names pop up when I'm online, when I do my online service, and I see we have a lot of that's in the beekeeping chats that follow along, and so it's become a fellowship. I appreciate your having this Sunday evening fellowship for everybody to come in. And that's really what it is. We have a time to fellowship together, but only God can open up those kind of things. I didn't know anybody. We didn't know anybody. And just a simple getting interested in bees and turning on YouTube. And this is just where he led us, to make these kind of connections. And so he's just wonderful in every way. If something, like I said, we're his hands and feet. If he got something for us to do, he'll make a connection. There's a need we're supposed to help out. We'll run up on that need somehow. I mean, I make this statement a lot, and I think I probably made it this morning in one way, that when our day doesn't go like we think it should go, we ought not get bent out of shape over that, because he might be getting us where we need to be. And the very person that we're having trouble with might be the one that we've been sent to help or to minister to. I have come to learn that because somebody has a bad attitude, there may be a reason behind that. And we might be the light that they need. We might need the kind words that they need. And, I'm going to tell you, my first reaction isn't always that. My first reaction down inside, it's hard to get this brain and this mouth to work together. But, when somebody crosses me the wrong way and says something, it's easy to let something rise up. But I've come to realize, take a step back, even if you don't say anything, and take a look and at least pray, because they may be, you don't know what's happened to that person. They may have gotten a doctor's report that, was devastating. They may have had a spouse, walk out and leave. They may have lost a child. You don't know what people are going through in this world. But he sends us out his hands and feet. But because of his resurrection, we have that same power living in us to be the examples that we need to be. So we ought to take that and just realize the responsibility of it. And I know a lot of people do, and I do appreciate it. I've seen it, like I said, we've seen just a lot in these connections that let His light shine in so many ways. You know, you don't have to preach in a pulpit. You don't have to. You don't even have to come online and give a message. You know, you just live it every day. That's the best way to share it.
That's it. Just that little bit of time with somebody. You never know what Christ said. You know.
You don't know when you're entertaining.
Well, you don't know when you're entertaining angels, or just simply those encouraging words of Christ in one way or another are planting that little bit of a seed. Let the Lord do the growing. You just drop that little bit of seed in there. You know, there's no doubt He's going to make things go as He wants. But one of those, we had I don't want to say incident, wasn't an incident by no means, but just when we had our church get together not too long ago, back in March, our Bible conference. I felt some gentleman tap me on the back of my shoulder. And when I turned around and I seen this gentleman, it blew my mind who was tapping me on my shoulder. But, hang on a second, she can wait this another minute. Now we'll rewind a couple years prior to all this. Me and Hannah I got to have my snacks for church. Peppermint, you know, something.
Gummy bears.
Gummy bears.
Ain't a big kid peppermints going in his pocket.
But so we go to the little Dollar General. I'm going somewhere with this, y'all. So y'all just bear with me. And this is just praying for folks. I ran into an old friend, and he was just about as far at the bottom as you could get, y'all.
He was in really, really bad shape.
Yeah, drugs, alcohol.
But those choices had turned into a lot of medical problems for him. Like he was in really bad shape.
And we had bumped into him, and he was sitting on the curb. And I thought I'd never see this man at this point in life ever. But sure enough, he was there. And I told him, I said, brother, I said, look. I said, get up and go to church with us. Oh, I can't go to church looking like this, Timmy. I said, brother, I'm not going to mention his name. I said, but brother, I said, look. I said, you know me. Our church ain't nobody going to judge you for what you look like. The whole point in there is, trying to find the right path of getting into church. And long story short on that, he said no. And, well, we didn't see him for about a year and a half, 2 years.
We ran a couple calls on him after that. And that's what made us think that when we didn't see him for so long, we thought he wasn't around anymore.
I figured he had died.
Yeah.
Because one of the last calls, I'm not going to get into graphic detail or anything, just kind of give somebody thought on it, but it was so bad the last time we ran on it. We found him in a horse barn.
Just we thought, we assumed he was gone. He was in that bad shape.
So, like I said, we didn't know one way or another. But when we had our Bible conference the other week, it was that man that turned around and hit me on my shoulder that I had not seen in almost 2 years. And he had a Bible in his hand. And he was praising God in that church, and he was thanking God for delivering him from everything that held him down in life. He
was a brand new person.
Yes.
Literally before our eyes, we saw the brand new man that God created in him and turned around.
I guess the moral of mine is, Lord, thank you for going on Calvary and saving an individual like myself. because I rebelled against you just the same. But thank goodness you got me up and out of things. And just because the Lord got me up and out of things a little bit earlier, if you will, doesn't mean to give up on somebody else that is dealing with the same situation. The Lord is strong and mighty in many, many ways that we can't understand. Like I said, I'd have never thought I'd have ever seen that fella in the church house. But just goes to show where I was wrong on things. But I guess the moral of it is just thank you, Lord, for doing what you've done. Yes, and knowing that we have a God that loves us enough to do that versus just, putting us off to the side, not even giving us a chance to live with Him in any kind of way. No. I'm gonna read this off because I can't pull it up on the comments because of the whatever StreamYard. But she was telling me, Phillips, did y'all do the prayer list yet? My cousin's daughter-in-law, 50-year-old mother, 2 teenagers, married, Beth Hobbs, was diagnosed with pancreatic and liver cancer. Sure do. But Big Ham's got you added to the.
Yeah,
I got her to the list. But
for sure.
kind of going back, some of those aha moments on the death, burial, and resurrection, if you will, for a second, Pastor Larry. It's down there, but I'm not going to go through my whole list of what I got in my notebook. But it's just some of them aha moments for me was listening to a gentleman like yourself delivering the word and realizing that in the beginning, the sin fell in the garden with Adam and Eve. And we fast forward through the time until pretty well the resurrection of Christ, that I could be wrong, but how I kind of look at it, it ended in the garden. And let me explain why, because it's just me and my pea brain thinking, but Mary mistook Christ as a gardener in the garden. So when she went to the tomb. So what a way in my brain just kind of put it together. It all began in the garden and Christ ended it as she thought he appeared as a gardener on things, and kind of putting that together, then putting the pieces of the 3 robes together along with the crown of thorns of, the mockery they was trying to make of Christ. But the whole time, not realizing you think you're mocking him by putting him in a purple robe and a crown of thorns, but yet you're showing him as royalty with a crown. Yeah, you're fulfilling a prophecy right there in front of your own people and not even realizing what you're doing. Then y'all place him in a white robe, pure and sinless, but you think you're mocking him. It was some of those moments whenever that finally hit me, was like, it's amazing how it's all come together. And the people then didn't even realize the fact that, you think you're mocking him, which y'all were, but in a lot of ways, you was just glorified. But it's a wonderful blessing.
Yeah, we love to hear those stories, like the gentleman who was talking about tapping you on the shoulder. They don't always end that way, but We work hard to see them. We've got a couple of young men that we've watched grow up as young boys and teenagers. To the time we had a big teen ministry, and we got to work with them, and they went on in life and went their separate ways and had their own separate problems. But both of them wound up either on drugs, alcohol, one back and forth out of jail. But both of them right now in two separate parts of the state and two different programs. But both of them are in Christian programs. Both of them have been in touch with us, and I hear from them pretty much every week. And they talk about what a change that they've seen in themselves, and with that determination to get their life back on track. They've lost pretty much everything that meant anything to them, but they both seem to be doing really well. Both of them are in a year-long program and kind of the early stages, or a little ways into it, but committed for a year. So it's those kind of stories help you to keep pressing on and sharing the good news, because like I said, not all of them I've heard from, not all of them have turned out that way yet. Still hope. As long as there's breath, there's hope. But those give you hope to keep on sharing, because we try to pour into them. But when people get to that state, you lose contact. They don't want to talk to anybody. They don't. Last person they want to talk to is a preacher, and you just kind of lose that ability to to pour into them anymore. So when we have that opportunity, we need to take it, I guess, is the moral of that story. When you have an opportunity to pour into someone, especially a young person, put it in there. Like you said, sow those seeds, because that seed might lay there a long time, but somewhere along the way, that seed going to get the right water and the right what it needs and come up. And I believe some of those seeds that was sown in those young men a long time ago is what's coming up in them now. They're realizing, what they heard then and what's been put into them. And both of them are looking to God to help them get through this. And I tell you, that makes you feel good. So that pushes you to keep on helping people when you can, every opportunity, because you never know which one's going to show up and tap you on the shoulder. I got messages out of the blue from one of them. I showed up under a different name and just sent me a message, and I had no idea where they were, no idea they were even in that program. They reached out to me, wanted us to know that they were making a change and turning around. So we love to hear those kind of things.
I think the Lord knows just when you need to hear or see one of those experiences to kind of rejuvenate you to keep going and show you, it does. I can do this. I will still do this.
We've had the opportunity to deal with a lot of people, and I don't know why. I've never been an alcoholic, never done drugs, but for some reason, God has connected me with drug addicts. Got a long history of that, and built some pretty good relationships with them. And for whatever reason, but I've seen a lot of rehab programs. I've seen people go in and out like a revolving door. But I'm gonna tell you, the ones that I've seen that's been Bible based, whether it's men or women, and when they get the time to spend with them, they get them in the Word, and give them a foundation on the Word. We've got ones called Teen Challenge, which for adults. Well, they call it Adult and Teen Challenge now, and it's strictly Bible based. They're heavy into Bible study, year-long program, and they've had, the last I heard, like an 80-something% success rate 5 years later of still being clean. And that's unheard of. Government-run programs, I think their average like 10%. So, but it's the ones that are faith-based that puts them in the Word and helps them to understand you got help, because I'm gonna tell you, addictions are real. Those struggles are real. That's not something you can just say, okay, I'm gonna quit. I'm thankful I hadn't to deal with it, but I do understand that those kind of things are very real. They take a grip on people. But I tell you, I've seen the power of God work to break those things off of men and women's lives, and it's a powerful thing to watch when they surrender. When we surrender to Him, He can take care of anything. So I tell you, I love seeing the word in action and the word working in people's lives.
Well, and like you say, in a lot of ways, it's encouraging, and you as a believer in many ways yourself. You know, Lord, if you got them out of the bind, continue to help me in what I'm struggling with on things.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's a big help when you see God do that for others. And they got a great testimony. You know, when they come through something like that, they've got their words will have more weight to it than any message I'll ever preach to somebody going through the same situation, because they've been there and they can testify how God got them through it. You know, I can tell them according to the word, I can tell them according to my own experience, but God's creating a very powerful testimony in the lives of those young men, and I love to see that.
yeah. Well, see where we at on time. Okay. Sorry, she's dealing with Jasper and all that. But well, how's things in the beekeeping world for y'all, Pastor Larry?
Well,
Wide open.
I heard you mention a little earlier that we might have been able to get in our bees a little. That's the understatement of the year.
Uh-oh.
For the first time in the since we really got serious about doing it, we have been pedaling upstream. We started off the year kind of slow, checked on them. They made it pretty good. We went in with 21, came out with 20, and they seemed like they were a little slow getting started. But now we fed them through the winter, and we put APIS on them, and we put High Life Fondant on them. And I'm gonna tell you what, when they started, those things exploded. And so we're at that place now. We're chasing, and then we put out several swarm traps this year, and put the first one up. And we prayed over it and said, Lord, you know what we need. We're on this journey for you. Send us what we need, and if we don't, send them on to somebody else that does. And so right now we've caught nine swarms. Two of them was ours, but thankfully we caught them. And so matter of fact, I got one that I need to pick up tonight, about a mile from here. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Won't be tonight, but we got two in traps now, number 8, number 9. But no, they've been busy. They've been. We've had some stories that the chat. I don't think we could get into all of them on here. Maybe we'll have a private conversation sometime. We've seen stuff we hadn't seen before. I've seen stuff make me scratch my head. Things I can't explain. We got we've had more swarms than normal, but like I said, we had two. Matter of fact, we got two swarms on the same property. I had a guy call me on Friday evening. He out of town. He come in. He said I sent you a picture. I've been cutting grass. I think I didn't see it. He said I sent you a picture. He said I think we got a swarm. Might have some bees in one of these boxes. And I pulled the picture up, and the whole side of the box was covered with bees. The front of the box was covered with bees, and up under it was hanging with bees. I said, "Yep, I'm pretty sure you got one there." And so we go down there to check on it, and he had 2 on the property. They went down on the other one, and they had already moved in. They were working like crazy, flying in and out. So I went down that Friday night, and we shut both of those up and brought them home, and went and put them in the bee yard. That Saturday morning, we had a wedding to go to, and we were actually supposed to be were in charge of serving the food that afternoon, and we had to be there early. So we said, we'll get up in the morning, go down and open them up. Went down, put a little limb in front of them, opened them up. Everything went great. Come on up through the main bee yard we have, and about the time we get where I could see it, we just stopped, and I looked, and I said, well, there goes a swarm right out of that end box. And we sat there and watched them. They come out, they went up, and there's a tulip poplar tree right behind that line of beehive, and they settled on a limb. We sat there and watched them, and they settled on a limb not 20 feet behind the hive they come out of. And so I said, well, we got a lot going on today, so I'm going to run get a ladder. I'll get me a box, and I'll sit up there and see if we can get them to go in it. So I went and did that, an 8-foot ladder, put a box on it, Dan had some running around to do before we had to go for the wedding. And so I went back down there, and they were flying around. They wasn't really messing with the box. I said, well, they were like 10 feet off the ground. I said, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get my tractor, put a pallet on it, put me a big box, and go down and pick it up. And I get up there and shake them. When she got back to help me, I get up on the ladder and shake them jokers in the box, and we make quick work of that. I got all that ready, got down there with my tractor, pulled up right under it in position before I ever picked it up, and looked, and the box right beside it. I said, well, there goes another swarm. They swarmed. They went up in the air, and guess where they went? They went to the box I had for the first one. They were covering outside the box. So I was on the golf cart. I went back there too. I said, now here's what we're going to do. This is like 12 o'clock. We're supposed to be getting ready at 12 o'clock for this wedding. I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, we're going to put all this stuff in the barn. We're going to a wedding, and after church tomorrow, whoever's in whatever box, we'll see if we can find them. And so we did. We left them. And Monday it was supposed to rain all day. So we got in Sunday afternoon. I said, I got to go down and at least get that box off the ladder. So we
had one on the ladder, and you put one on the top of the barn. That's what you did.
Yeah, the empty box I had that I was going to put on there, she said, well, why don't we just set that over here on the barn till we get back? So we did. We went ahead and baited it and set it over on the barn, 10-frame box, and didn't have about half the frames in it. So we get back down on Sunday afternoon. We got a swarm in that box on the barn. We go down to the nook sitting on top of that 8-foot ladder. The whole side of the box is covered in bees. The front of the box is covered in bees, and there's bees in the box. So we're trying to figure out now, is that one swarm inside, one swarm outside, and who's on the barn? So I finally got me another box and brushed those bees off, got it down off the ladder, and I said, I set them on a pallet because it's supposed to rain. I got them both in a box. I said, we don't know who's who. We don't know what's what. We're just going to leave them. So Monday sat there in the rain all day long. And so we finally got back down to check them. Turns out the second one that swarmed, that was all her bees in the box and out of the box. Queen was on the outside of the box. Sat there all day Monday in the rain. Found the queen on the outside. And that was all her bees. I guess they couldn't fit inside. The first one that swarmed was in the box on the barn. So we wound up getting both of them. But thankfully, that was one of our older queens. So one of them, they were marked 2 different colors. So we knew who was who. Mm-hmm. And so I did. So I told Jan, I said, now here, I got thinking about it. I said, I hadn't heard anybody say this. I'm sure people have done it. Maybe they don't want to talk about it. But I'm going to talk about it. Because I got thinking, I said, we're right here at the honey flows fixing to kick in. And they done gone with half the bees. That's going to mess up the honey flow in both boxes. So I said, but you can't just put them back in there. So here they're sitting side by side where they swarm. So, and we've got most, let me say, we run out of names right now, but she keeps most of them named. So we got Annie on one side and Dakota on one side, and we got them in boxes now. So I said, here's what I'm going to do. Annie's over here. I'm going to take Dakota and her bees, and I'm going to put them over here with this box. I'm going to take Annie out of this one, and her bees, I'm going to put them over here with this one. And so two double Ds. I said, that way we still got a box full of bees here, a box full of bees there. Put the newspaper down, set them on top of them, and both of them combined, we got 2 strong hives. So we saved those 2. So they're just relocated. But now for somebody that pays a lot of attention to color and names, Miss Jan's having a really hard time because Dakota's in Annie's box, Annie's in Dakota's box, and they both the wrong color. Because we got one orange box, so if we make a nook off of it, we always try to put in an orange nook. That way, when she pulls up, or if we're doing a mating nook, we'll use an orange one. That way, if she pulls up, she already automatically knows that's where that queen come from. She kind of keeps it. But now we got the colors all mixed up. We got names all mixed up, and that ain't the half of them. That's the first one. We won't get into the rest. That's kind of the way ours went. So we've got queens that we got some that left. We bought an incubator, and I knew when I ordered it, I said, this is going to be trouble. And so when we first started all this, I said, well, we're going to at least plug it up before we get in here checking everything. Let me plug it up in case we need it. But we went probably about 15, 20 queen cells in that incubator. I had queens hatching out I check them 3 times a day. I got new ones in. I'm trying to feed them, trying to keep them alive. Then we got 14 mating nooks sitting over there in one yard, 2 framers, and yeah, that's kind of the way it's been. And we had
Y'all don't have flames coming out your ears.
one of our biggest hives from last year. We had that thing stacked high, and we went in it and couldn't find the queen. Swarm cells galore. Couldn't find her to relocate her. So we're gonna go ahead and just pull some splits. We pulled 3 boxes?
3.
Three frame boxes off of her, and left a couple of queen cells in there. I said, she's somewhere, or either she might be already gone. We didn't know she was already gone. I said, if she's here, she'll be in this one, and pray tell if she winds up in a 3 frame box, because she was already, mated queen laying. And so when it all shook out, and we got over checking our 3 frames, the second one we checked, that thing, 3 frames, we couldn't get the lid off of it because they built so much comb up at the top, had it packed full of honey. The queen was in that one. So we put that mated queen in that little box. But we went back and opened that box up, and we'll put them in a 5 frame nook, put them in a double 5, and say fill that up. So we moved her out yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Got her in the cage, going to move her back to her other box, actually. And while we're shutting it up, I said, well, there's another queen. And I looked down, here goes the queen walking across, looked like a mated queen walking across the frame. So I reached down, picked her up, and put her in a cage. And so we put her on a hive yesterday, and I'm pretty sure she's mated, because you know how bees do to a mated queen, and they just flock to it. And so we get back to that same original hive that all that started with, went through it, and found her. And while we're shutting it up, there's another queen walking across the frame, another mated queen. And so I said, well, thank you, Lord. We got a box that needs a queen. So we put that in a cage, carried her on, and gave her a new home.
Just call them manna.
So they're just, you can't keep them where they're supposed to be.
Well,
when the year started, we went through one in the bee yard that wasn't marked, and said, well, we will find the queen. We're going to mark her. We opened the box, start going through it, and there's a pretty green marked queen you want to see walking around in the box.
Yeah.
Where she came from, I don't know.
Well, yeah, maybe they know better than us.
They do. I've come to the conclusion of 2 things. Bruce always says they'll figure it out. So that just has to be the answer a lot of times. You just say they'll figure it out. And I tell them, I said, if they're not in one box, maybe they'll be in another. That's about all you can say.
Yeah.
We've got about I've been asked twice this weekend how many boxes of bees we got, and I said, I don't even know. But we're somewhere about 40 boxes that's got bees in it, not full colony. Some of them mating nooks. But I said, we got the last count, we were in the neighborhood of 40, and I couldn't tell you at this moment how many we got. But they have kept us busy. Our 2 days of beekeeping is what we like to stay at. 6 days a week for the last few weeks.
That's what I was thinking.
I come in yesterday, last night, late, and I told her, I went there, I took my shower. I said, I didn't even take my notebook in there. I'm not talking anything about bees tonight. I'm not looking at no bees. Don't mention anything about bees to me tonight.
Give me a break.
That's right.
We're doing good right now. We're doing good.
But no, if we can keep them in boxes where they're supposed to be, our flow is really looks like it's going to do well. Last year we had a really messed up year. All of our stuff bloomed like at one time. The stuff that blooms later, kind of comes in stages. Our tulip poplar bloomed early. It was blooming the same time blueberries were. But bees can't take in but so much at one time. And so everything bloomed out at once, and then it was like over. It was short lived. And so we didn't get much honey last year at all compared to the bees we had. But so far this year, we missed that big freeze that we always get. Usually the blueberries get about halfway out, and we'll get a freeze and a frost up here and kill them back. Blackberries, I've never seen so many blackberries.
There's so many blooms now. It's all.
If they're not bringing something in now, it's their own fault. We got blackberries before. So
It's good. Y'all having such good numbers up there. I was just thinking, well, maybe it's just kind of, or it's just slow for our area or something, or we just ain't going to do too much around here right now. But between yourself, you said you went from 2 days to 6 days now. And Rodney Middleton the other week says he's done lost count. I was glancing at the chat a minute ago.
Just said he got number 14 or 15 in the box on Swarm.
We got
Like,
one.
what?
One. We're in the count, but we got one.
Yeah. We're slow coming out the gate.
That's
But
it.
what's the turtle one? It's the how long you go.
The tortoise and the hare.
Yeah, that one.
was it last year or year before? Our first one was April 22nd.
April 22nd was our first one last year.
And we've got 9 so far now.
And that's
April
that's
20th.
what, Tuesday?
Yeah.
So we're early.
Yeah, it's early for us on Swarm.
Well, even we put our honey supers on earlier this year.
Mm-hmm. DC in here, I thought you was trying to make us feel better. He ain't got none, but he don't get swarms upstairs.
Yeah.
So it doesn't count.
Yeah, I thought about y'all every time I've checked swarm traps. I said, I'm hoping they're going to be getting some swarms kicking in down that way.
I hope so. I really hope so.
We pick ours up and we pray for y'all. We pick ours up and we pray for y'all.
Well, we sure appreciate it.
Well, y'all pray specifically for bees, though, because I think DC praying for blessings just brought us a whole bunch of puppies.
Well, I've been praying for bees. When we pick our bees up, we were praying for bees for y'all.
I appreciate that. I want puppies, but I want no more.
Mike Berry, the one that he done that he was sitting there and he was catching all those queens and he had swarms and he had this going. That was our day. That was us. You could just picture Larry and Jan sitting there, and that was us with the queens. Yeah. It was just like everywhere you turn, there was another queen coming out. It was, I don't know.
It's like, where are y'all keep coming from?
I know.
We pulled 12 queen cells. We left some. We pulled 12 queen cells the other day out of one, and several of them before I could get them in the cage and get them set in a little cooler.
They were emerging.
They were emerging. We were there, and that wasn't just one. That was probably.
But by the time we left the bee yard and go to the incubator, they had done emerged out. They were inside the cage.
Some of them were catching. They were out before we could get them in a cage. We'd have to catch them. So,
we need to do some splits fast, real fast.
We don't really know what we got right now. We're just trying to catch up. Hopefully, we get to that place where we can maintain, but we just ain't got there.
Oh, y'all will. Everybody will settle down for long, and you can get them straight again, and then y'all can get a system back going.
But that's good. Your numbers are building up.
Mm-hmm. Quick, too, it sounds like. Mr. Russell, a couple of them, like the corners, are just starting to. So, but they're only 10 days today. So, in the next 4 or 5 days, I guess they should be opening up pretty good. Yeah, DC, we're kind of chewing on it some. I think it's more me. I just really want to catch a swarm at my grandma's this year. But we do have a trap out at the church, and we have some boxes baited here in our yard.
Mm-hmm. Then the swarm the other day over John's, my buddy John, we went and took the box over there because he had a swarm way on up in one of them old water oaks. That one was empty. He called back a day or two after all that, and he said, look, those bees are gone, but I'm too scared to go out there to see if they're in your box. And I'm like, John, you're 6'1", 180 pounds. You know what I mean? You're a pretty good sized dude, and these little old honeybees has got you worried. He said, well, I'll just leave that beekeeping mess to y'all. I'm like, well, all right. So we moseyed on by there and checked the box, but that one was empty. So said on to the next one.
Last Sunday after church, Larry checked the. We got a swarm trap down there in the woods down there on the hill, and him and one of the guys went down there and checked. There wasn't anything. There were some scouts the week before, but there wasn't anything last Sunday. He went up there. He was going to refresh it this morning when we were leaving. He come back. He says, "Well, I didn't need to do that." I said, "Why?" He took a video of it. Then got one moved in down there.
Oh,
We got to pick it up.
They bringing pollen in. I said,
okay.
I need to put them on the schedule to pick up.
Yeah, the pickup schedule. We
That's
come
a
around.
good problem to have, though.
This year it's going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays, y'all. We'll be back around.
We've had two today because I went the one that's about a mile from here over in the woods. I went over there. It was the last one I was going to refresh today. They have to take the golf cart and ride back in the woods. So I drove over there. Jan told me, she said, I think I'm just going to sit this one out. You can go do it. So I went over there to refresh it. And we just went yesterday. We had some bees over there. We went and checked it yesterday afternoon, and there wasn't anything in it. Well, there was a couple scout bees. And so when I get over there, they are flat, wide open. Usually I pull the box down, check what's in. I said, there's too much activity right here to pull this thing down. They were coming in and out just wide open. You can tell they just moved in. So they moved in there sometime this afternoon. So I'll get them get settled in. We'll probably get them tomorrow night or something, get them situated in their new home. So that's two today. I went to refresh and had bees on them. So we'll see what next week holds.
You never know.
We did have the one hitting the one horizontal hive pretty hard that day we come home. I honestly thought that a swarm had already moved in. As much traffic was coming in and out of that one little entrance right there. So I moseyed on down there and got to looking at them. I was like, well, these old girls ain't doing nothing but scouting. Mm-hmm. But I think I may have run them off. And the reason I say is because there was a spider web across that entrance. And there was one little spot where the bees was just kind of able to freely go in and out. And I was like, I'm just going to take the stick right here and pull the rest of the spider web out of their way so they didn't get tangled up in the spider web.
You made the entrance too big.
I guess I don't know. I done something that they didn't like because I went back out there about 30 minutes later and there wasn't a bee around.
That was partial of that spider web, buddy.
I guess so. So I said, you know what? Next time, deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't tell what they're going to do. We got one hanging up here above the house. Last year we had it in the same place. It's right above one that we caught a couple years ago. And they had several times scouted that thing heavy last year, and nothing ever moved in. It's built just like the other traps. We got one back up in the same place this year. 2 or 3 times already they have scouted that thing. I went up a couple weeks ago, and I thought it had a swarm in it. There were some in it. I pulled it down and looked, and there was probably 3 dozen bees inside on the frame that we had in their comb. I said, they're probably cleaning that up to move in. Went back the next day, not a bee in sight. So the last couple of days, they've been one bee going in and out. And I told Jan, I said, they're not going to use this for a playhouse. So they ain't going to get in there. I'm going to move that box and put it somewhere else. They got about 1 more week in that spot. That's been a year and a half. I've had that thing up, and nobody moved in it. But they're constantly scouting it. So you don't know. I did get an opportunity to stand in a swarm out here, though.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I was trying to put that link up there. Anybody wants to come in and chit chat a little bit. I got to looking at time. I was like, well, let me at least put the link in. Yeah.
Now we had one move in here at the house on an old refrigerator sitting out in the yard. They just started coming to it. I had a swarm trap in the back of the truck, was taken somewhere else. I just threw it up on top. And, they come in one afternoon. They moved in about 20 minutes, and I stood out there and videoed the whole thing and watched them come in. And then after we got them down there in the yard, we checked. When we went back and checked on them, there wasn't a queen in there. I don't know. I think she may have left with some of the bees. I don't know. We never could find the queen. There wasn't near as many bees that went in that were still there, so we just combined them with another one. But that was neat to be able to stand there. I've seen a swarm go over, but I've never been able to stand there and video and right there in front of them watch them come in. But that's a pretty awesome thing to stand in a swarm of bees and watch them go in. They don't care about nothing going on around them except getting in that box.
We've had the pleasure of doing like that, like I say, being in the swarm and all that. But I tell you something that we have yet to have when it comes to whether you're doing a cutout or if you're bringing a swarm home. And that's just simply, especially since we got this everything bee back now, is them to do that beautiful little march that you see everybody else get. You know, everybody just filing in nice uniform. You know, you got the funnel going into the one entrance and all that. We have yet in our 5 years for them to willingly, I guess, do that march. Now, if we dump them on the top, then set the bucket at the entrance, they'll start, you know, kind of meandering on in after that. But far as you see, a lot of people just set that old bucket down or set the box on the ground and they come filing in. That's one thing we're waiting to see, I guess, on our end.
Now, I see Keith Spillman in here. I noticed he put his honey supers on early again this year. He said he tried it last year, and we're not that far apart. I think maybe a couple hours apart, and so we kind of took inspiration from him. We threw our supers on a little earlier this year for us, and took a chance on it, and it seemed like it's paid off because they've, you know, we had a little bit of stuff coming in. Some of them, like I said, are stronger ones now. You know, they put a decent amount in. Smaller ones, some of them they didn't mess with them, but I think it's going to work out all right having them on early because we've had a lot of stuff blooming for quite a while, just smaller amounts. But things are really popping around here now. Our tulip poplar is open. Blackberries is going wild. Hopefully the girls will get something made if they can stay in the box long enough.
We get back up here past the Larry. See somebody come in. Cat without the hat. So just learning to keep my bees. Any tips? Welcome my first year. First year beekeeping, best tip I can give you. Take your time and learn to read that hive in a basic level. Be sure to get that down first, I guess, is the best advice I can give you as far as making sure your queen's laying good. You got good pollen and honey or nectar in there for them to feed on, and making sure those bee populations are up good. The pest and all that stuff, yeah, you need to learn on that. But far as I wish I'd have kind of in my first year learned how to read that hive a little bit more than what I did going into years 2 and 3 and so on. But anything y'all got you'd recommend there, Pastor Larry, first year?
Well, yeah, that is very important. As I hear say a lot, the only thing predictable about bees is they're not predictable. We sit in 2 days and make plans to go in the bee
That's
yard
true.
and get all our equipment loaded and get in the bee yard. And the first thing we do is bring the truck back and unload it because we didn't need none of that. We'd load what we did need. Bees will change your plans in a heartbeat. But yeah, being able to recognize what's going on, even observing the outside of them when you go in the bee yard. I know you can't tell everything at the entrance, but it's just a learning process. I guess the main thing I would say to people is enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, it's going to be a miserable ride because you can, we're still learning. There's a lot of things we did in the first couple of years since we really got serious about it that, we don't do anymore because we got into it and realized either we didn't need to do it that way, it didn't work for us that way. And don't be afraid to try things. You're going to ask, always remember, if you ask 10 beekeepers a question, you're going to get at least 11 answers. So you can't, there's some good information on YouTube. We learned a lot. We learned a ton of stuff, but, things we're doing now, there's people, I'm sure, if we put it out there, what we do, they'll say, you can't do that. That won't work. And so, but what works for you? That's the main thing. And so what we've done, we take a little bit of this one. We don't have anybody that we pattern ourselves after. We like their way of they do. One person does this one way. We try it, and if it works for us, and then so it's just a mix. I think most people are that way. But enjoy the journey of beekeeping.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, there's nothing to me like just sitting down and just looking in that beehive. We're probably way too slow. We'd never making much money on bees because we spend way too much time.
Bob Beanie wouldn't hire us, that's for sure.
He'd send us home. He wouldn't allow us in his yard, probably. I've been to the store. He wouldn't allow me in his yard, I'm sure. Number one, I can't keep a hive tool in my hand. He says, always be able to do everything with a hive tool in your hand. I'm always looking around, where's the hive tool?
Mm-hmm.
I keep saying over and over, I said, don't tell Bob. Don't tell Bob. But no,
That's pretty bad. Bees is like a garden that teaches you patience.
Indeed.
Yeah.
yeah.
But for me, that's the good thing about the bees. Like that's probably my favorite part. And that's why I like to go out there if I'm having a rough time, like a bad day or something. Because you have to just slow down and then you get lost in the bees and everything's okay.
You really can't think about much else. Or let me say, if you do, you'll be in trouble. But you really have to get your mind on it when you're there. If not, they're going to remind you, hey, we're here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very therapeutic. But yeah, and I tell anybody, enjoy it. I have people, and then when somebody asked about getting a hive, I said, don't ever get a hive, get two.
Mm-hmm.
That's my best advice to anybody, start with two. Because you don't know, if you got one, you don't know if it's normal or not. If you got one that's doing better than the other one, then you can ask the question, well, what's going on with this one? It's not doing as good as that one. And plus you got resources, if you got one strong and one not so, and you need to pull a little bit and help sister out over there, you can do that. But that's the best thing, is to start with at least two. Or as the saying I've seen on Facebook, and I've seen it seems to apply to chickens too, but that's another conversation. But I've had to use that today. I saw somebody post on Facebook, it's just as easy to take care of 20 hives as it is 10, so go ahead and get 40.
Oh. I don't think I'd apply that to chickens myself.
Well,
I like that with the bees.
I had somebody tell me a story this morning. Somebody went to send his wife to get some chickens, so she was going to get three or four biddies. And so she got there, and the man said, well, if you buy three, I'll give you the fourth one free. And so she said, oh, okay. So I'll just go ahead and take four. And while she was getting that one, he said, let me show you these over here. And so when she wound up, she went home with 13 instead of 3. So I said, I guess that principle applies to chickens too.
Yeah.
If 3 is good, 13 must be better.
They said, don't tempt me. I'd load up on all of them. Yeah, Damien, I think we did that too a couple times our first year. They're like halfway through filling out a deep, and we put another And I'm thinking we're gonna lose them, or they need more room, or if we give them more room, they'll work faster and we'll get more honey. It doesn't work like that.
No, then that's when the hive beetles show up.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
But I'm glad he mentioned that they're adding too early. So just remember the 7-10 rule, or if you're using an 8, I guess you can do 5 and 8 rule. But if 7 out of those 10 frames are good and full of bees, then pretty well for the most part you're okay to go ahead and add you another super, or if you want to do some kind of double on your brood chamber of any kind of way. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good piece to learn, especially in your first year. And you will either lose or kill a queen at some point, whether you set that frame on the ground or accidentally roll her, squish her, something like that. It's going to happen at least one time in your deal. And then the show enough big one is whenever you think you done grabbed a hold of that frame real good, and all of a sudden there she goes onto the ground, and you done dropped a deep frame of brood and larva. And
I did that. What, like my second time getting in a hive or something? I dropped the whole frame. We had slipped. Like we had gotten honey on us somehow, and my hands were so slippery. And I went to hand him that frame, and just as pretty as you please, I dropped that thing. Comb and bees went everywhere. We dropped boxes before too. Haven't we? You dropped a deep.
I dropped a deep box.
Yeah.
So it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Then about a year or two after she dropped the frame, I was tinkering around doing something, trying to move a frame from one hand to the other, whatever the case may be, and sure enough, I'd done the same thing. Boom, right on the ground it went.
Yeah.
That's it, most likely.
Part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, DC dropped a flashlight on the queen. Well, hey, I will say though, once you have that first experience, you learn pretty quick. The reactions that you hone them pretty quick, because it wasn't too long after that we was filming a video, and you dropped something on a sheet of metal like under my feet. And I about jumped out of my skin, but I had a death grip on that frame. I was holding. Like, no, I'm not losing it.
I forgot about that video.
Don't remember what you dropped, your hive tool or something.
I think it was.
It was a nasty sound.
I dropped it on a piece of old corrugated metal I had leaned up against the tree, and that hive tool or something fell out of my pocket, walking around trying to film whatever we was doing. And yeah, it spooked my mule too, because I didn't know we was gonna slam on that joker, but she did good. She held on.
And all I had on was a pair of gloves and a veil before I turned allergic. Thinking, boy, they take to light me up.
Yeah, we've looked through a hive for a queen, and to find her walking around on the ground under our feet. That's not a good feeling either.
Yeah, we've done that too. One was on an inner cover I sat down.
This was a first year. And you talk about them queens, and I'm walking on the ground, just like anything else. First year, we was watching videos of people, inspecting colonies and this and that. And well, just like you see a lot of people in videos, they'll take that frame, like I mentioned a minute ago, and set that frame on the ground beside the box or whatever it may be, but they'll set that frame on the ground. And we was working on our first few split, or we had gotten some mated queens back. But anyway, the colonies we split was pretty well established. And I took that frame, bam, set it on the ground, pulled out a few more, done this and that. Well, put it back. And we went to the other colonies. And while we was checking the other ones, we could tell that first one was kind of getting a little fired up. We're like, what in the world is wrong with y'all? And they was acting queenless. So we went back to them.
It took us a minute to catch that. They were acting queenless.
Yeah, but then they started, you know how they get, they'll kind of start trying to jump on you a little bit. And so we got done with everything, went inside. And I don't know, I went back down there an hour or two later, and I seen a little bitty ball of bees on the ground. It probably wasn't big as a tennis ball. And I'm thinking, what in the world? So I reached down, I pick them up, and y'all, there's a beautiful queen right amongst this little ball of honeybees down here. And I'm like, where did you come from? I didn't know, because every frame we had set on the ground. So I took that queen to the colony I thought she belonged to.
She didn't belong in there.
No, she didn't belong at all.
They let her know that.
Oh, they let her have it. She ain't no more touched the top of that frame.
We didn't have time to save her. There was no saving her. I tried.
No,
it was over with.
Yeah.
She come out this little bitty deep fried maggot looking thing. Like, I felt terrible for her. So, Lord, please don't let us do this again. Mr. Dan said, off with her.
That's exactly what they said. They did not hesitate either.
But there wasn't no trial to that one. No. Not at all. They didn't give her a chance.
So, needless to say, we learned to recognize a queenless hive a lot better than what we originally did on that end, that's for sure.
That was a rough lesson to learn.
Yep.
Very rough lesson to learn.
Well, I experienced something twice this week that I've heard people talk about it, but I don't think I've ever had it to happen. Had the queen, we marked queens and had them to faint. And I marked one the other day, and as soon as I marked her and turned her loose, and we used to catch them all in a little one-handed queen catcher, and that's the dangerous apparatus sometimes. I have cut one in half with that too. So we've been trying to get better, messing with all those virgins hatching out. I found out the best way, let me say, my favorite way to mark a queen is when they come out in that incubator, and I can let them just walk around and pick them up and put a dot on them. But I grabbed one of them and put a dot on her and set her back down, and she just fell over just as pretty as you want to see. I said, I think I just killed the queen. She said, you didn't. And this is one we just had trouble getting the queen for, and our second chance. And so we laid her down there, and the bees came around her, and eventually she got up. And whether she made it or not, I don't know. But then I had another one probably the day after that, and I had that one in a what did I drop her in? One of those little cages. We were going to move her, and I had one of the roller cages. And so I marked her, put her in there, and she went straight to the bottom. Bloop, dead as you want to see, laying on the side, just as still as you laying on the side. I said, well, those are one of the little small cages, the little queen cages, like you introduce them with the candy plug in the end. I put her in there, and I stuck a couple of attendants in there, and I looked, and I said, well, she's on the bottom, feet up. I said, that's not good. And we sat there and watched her a good while. And I said, well, I'm going to sit over here in this box. So we got a little insulated box we carry around. And I said, I'm just going to put her over here and see what happens. And so we went back, and it was like 15 minutes later, and I went over and picked it up. And I said, she's walking around in here just fine. But she was just like she was dead as she could be. So I said, I guess she fainted. She was out a long time. I've heard people talk about it, but I've never had one to do it. But I'm gonna tell you, that's a terrible feeling when you pick that queen up and dot it and you turn it loose and it just falls lifeless.
Oh, I'd probably cry.
She pulled one of them Marie O'Hare moments. Oh,
Oh man. DC said he dropped a frame last week.
so see, hey, there you go. It happens to us.
Yeah, you're gonna have all kind of things happen. I said, just you better enjoy the ride and be entertained. Sometimes we just have to laugh at each other, laugh at the situation, because that's about all you can do, not to cry.
That's it.
You're gonna have those. We learned early to look lids really good. We have one that loved to get in the lid and walk around. And matter of fact, one of the first swarms that we had caught, and we never could find her. And finally, I went over there. So we looked everywhere except this lid, and I looked in the lid. She was walking around the outer edge, just going around and around. So the first thing I do now, I search the lids good.
DC says you're raising fainting queens.
Yeah, like fainting goats.
We're gonna join the circus. We got fainting queens.
Oh my word, DC. I didn't think I could say that out loud without laughing. That's why I just talked to him in the chat.
These are Aurora sensitive.
Yeah. Mm-mm-mm.
And I told her the other week, I said, I think we figured out what kind of bees we have. They're self-splitting bees. They've been splitting all spring on us. And if anybody missed Mike Berry's video he put on with his queens and nooks, they ought to check that out. And I'm gonna tell you, he had a time. He pulled out 15 queens.
Yeah, that's the way we
15.
felt. If you look at that video, it's the only thing different. It's Larry and Jan. That was our day. I mean, it's everything that happened to Mike was happening to us that day, and I couldn't believe it.
Is that the video he put out today? Okay. I haven't watched it.
It was last week, I believe it was.
Yeah,
it was the one
week.
he said something about had something about queens. I don't know
the title of it now.
I can't remember the title of it. But it was the one that he had that he sit down and he kept pulling queen cells out. And then it seemed like a swarm or something. Anyway, it was everything in the world that was going on that one day.
Yeah.
And he done used up all the equipment and
he had to run back to the shop and get more stuff. I said, that sounded like us. Run back for boxes.
In there.
Hey, that just kind of makes us think about the poor man's incubator that year we have.
Queen of Palooza.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's it. That was it. Yeah, look at if you hadn't watched it, look at it and you'll say, "Oh my word!" Just remember that's Larry and Jan. It's just we didn't video ours.
I thought DC was making up words there. I didn't realize he meant that was.
It's something like that. What he put on there.
Going with the fainting queens, the Queen of Palooza.
Oh, Bernard, you gonna have your hands full of 500 hives.
Oh my word!
I hope I get to be that good beekeeper one day. You can keep 500 hives alive. You doing something?
I think that's true.
Maybe when we grow up.
I can't even hardly say that with a straight face.
I'll wait for her to turn right around and tell me, well, never mind, you don't ever act your age, so.
That's why I said maybe when we grow up, we can keep bees like that. We might not grow up. I don't know. What did Paul tell me at church today? He said something about, he was talking about getting old and not wanting to do nothing but lay in the recliner. And I was like, yeah, I don't think that's got much to do with age, because there's a lot of days I just want to lay in the recliner And he was like, girl, you ain't but 13 years old. Wait till you grow up and then you can talk to me about that. And I was like, I'm older than 13 there, Brother Paul. And he wanted to know, so I told him how old I was, and he was like, shoot, I got yard equipment older than you are. Like, whatever. I'll grow up one day. Who wants to grow up? I know. It's no fun.
Jared said he's 14. He's acting.
I'm 14.
Yeah. I'm with you,
I refuse. Yeah, I think my husband's in that boat.
Well, I'm glad to hear y'all having a wonderful, wonderful season up there.
For real.
And hopefully we'll have the same down here for too long.
It's coming.
It is.
I can feel it in my ADO.
Y'all get it before we do, though. That's the thing.
I know. But it seems like it's just kind of flip-flop this year. Because Sarah's starting to get swarms like crazy.
Now, y'all got snow. Tell me how that has affected your fruit trees and everything. Is that helped any? Because, y'all were going to see if it helped any of the putting different nitrogen and stuff into.
My experiment kind of got taken from me because I was watching the blackberries out at where we set up the swarm traps around the oil rigs. There was blackberries for days coming out there, and there was flowers all over the place. And I was thinking the snow did that because the peach trees were blooming like crazy too.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody went back there with a tractor and mowed down every inch of those blackberries, and I was sick. I was so sick to my stomach. But I think so.
Everything's doing good. The blueberries are blooming good. The peach trees are doing good. Huckleberry is
we hadn't seen them bloom in a few years.
Yes, them girls are going crazy. Like I said, the first time in probably about 3 or 4 years, I've seen the China berry blooming real good. The privet is kind of just, it seems like it's lagging a little bit behind. It's showing itself, but it's not that full-on bloom yet. But like I was mentioning earlier, though, the last couple of days, we have started getting a hint of it in the air. So it is cranking on up. But I haven't seen any, I guess, negative results from the snow.
I do. I don't know if there's any correlation between the snow and things being so much further behind this year. Because I mean, like, think about it, we were having swarms and splits the second week of February, 2 or 3 years ago, kind of thing.
That's probably what put y'all a little behind. Was the snow?
I'm not sure.
Could very well be on time,
right,
if you will, versus a month and a half ago, everything blooming on out. Then now that we get here, you're pretty well just relying on what wildflowers you got until the popcorn trees go blooming or
I was just wondering about your with that being on the ground, all that melting, how that was going to help with the stuff.
Now, as far as our plants we have,
like flowering plants, like my roses, they have gone haywire.
Yes.
But
we've got 2 or 3 different kinds of 7 sisters, and like she said, There's one of them. We've been trying to get this thing to grow for the last 3 or 4 years, and this year it's got. I got to get a lot of it trellised up now because it's putting shoots off that one seven sister that are. I don't know. They're at least 6 or 8 feet long now. So.
And the honeysuckles, they're blooming like crazy right now.
Yeah, ours is. I've seen that they're getting ready to start.
Definitely seeing good signs on the foliage and the flowers and stuff like that. As far as, yeah, they look much better than they did last year. I can definitely say that.
Slower.
Yeah, we were going to see how that helped. If the snow helped it, and I just thought about that.
I'm gonna keep on with it and just listening to the, like the old men will say back at the day, what have you, hey, if we get snow,
wrong before.
No, there's got to be something to it. So, Lord willing, like I say, perhaps we're just actually on time instead of just being sporadic like we normally do down here.
Let's see. Damon said he's west of us, and the snow killed his fig tree.
Got his fig tree?
And then Bernard said their wild roses up there getting leaves pretty good.
I need to check the figs at the old place and see what it did up there. Because if it's going to get any of them, it got them up there.
I think that fig tree's probably over 9 years.
Now, we got a turkey fig down here that refuses to do anything. And I've already laid the axe at the roots a couple times with this thing. And
after his 7th year, when it never put off a fig, he cut it down. And it come back the next year, and it started putting off figs. But they all fell off before they got right. So he let it have one more year. But it ain't doing nothing this year either.
No, I mean it's putting leaves off, but definitely ain't seeing no fruit off of it yet.
All right, so what's a moral?
The mushroom
in the north. Really?
The mushrooms I tell you people pick in the woods out there, the moral mushrooms.
Okay. Because they're talking about them in the chat.
I don't think we have any of them puppies this far down south.
Where did Cat Without the Hat say they were?
Oh, I do not recall.
Didn't she say Sumter, South Carolina? I think so.
Oh, okay. Well, she said they're too far north for her, so if they don't have them, we sure don't.
That's about an hour and 10 minutes south of us.
That's why I didn't know what they was talking about.
I think it's more like, don't get me telling tales. It's in the North Country up there where them things grow. But undoubtedly, I guess there's a good business in it. Picking them things.
Milo got picked the wrong one.
Yeah, don't eat that one.
Get everybody in trouble.
Best mushroom the world has ever produced goes great with fresh rainbows and butter.
Oh, Cat Without the Hat's a big.
Not a grape fish. Okay.
I know, I didn't get rainbows until he put grapes. Now I get the rainbow trail.
Only last. Okay.
It's the deep freeze that kills, not the snow itself. That makes sense.
Okay, so undoubtedly too, there's a certain small little window to get them bad boys.
2 weeks.
Yep.
It's like the catfish running in the rivers down here. You only got 2 weeks for a couple of them.
Island says they're all over the Missouri Ozarks.
Oh, hey, Island, honey. I didn't see y'all sneak in. DC wants to start farming mushrooms. I
Okay,
think
no
we
wonder.
officially derailed.
Well, seeing that Gary's comment there said old apple orchards are the best place to find them. That is a fine reason why you won't get them down here.
You can't grow apples, but you can grow apple trees, but they ain't gonna put no apples off.
No. You might get lucky every once in a blue moon and get an apple or two off a tree, but as far as actually something worthwhile, no. Now they're beautiful. Her daddy had two of them over there that bloomed for years and years, and they was pretty trees when they bloomed, but you wasn't fitting to get no apple out of the thing. If you did, they wouldn't be maybe a little bit bigger than a ping pong ball or something like that, and that'd be about most you'd get out of them.
Larimore finally got in here.
Well, what'd you say there, Mr. Keith Larimore? Seen your video earlier because DC sharing it. Went out there and
That
had
swarm.
him swimming.
That was a nice swarm too.
It was.
Was the operative word.
Oh, he didn't get it?
No,
Oh, no.
no, he shook them and
I'm sorry,
They-
Larimore. I didn't mean it like that.
they carried on off until the wild blue yonder up there.
Well, you ran away with the phone before you showed me that
I did.
part. Look, DC, I don't like mushrooms.
No, she ain't fixing to eat no mushrooms.
Mm-mm. I like the flavor of them, but I ain't fixing to chew up no mushroom.
You don't like the texture.
I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like trying to take liquid cough syrup or something. It's just a natural reflex. I can't do it.
He said it was just for a minute. They were gone in a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Poof. Hey, we've been there, bud.
Yeah.
Been there.
Y'all have heard the story of our very first cutout where we just watched them fly away from us.
Yeah, we've opened a hive before and stood at the back of it and watched them all fly out the top, out front, and the whole box emptied out.
Last year at Lance's.
Yeah.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
We said, we're going to check y'all next, is what we was telling the bees.
Well, I mean, that was my fault. Remember, because I started while you and Lance went back to get more boxes. And I told myself, okay, he's got one that's stacked like 4 deeps high. And then the one beside it had, I think, a double D, maybe. And I was like, I'm going to do the big one first and get it out of the way. And I'll be dogged if that little old bitty hive did not swarm right before my eyes as soon as I opened that big one up. It's like, well, I picked the wrong one.
Yeah, but by the time we got back, we got the liquid. We was like, what was all these bees doing in the air?
Mm-hmm.
And then you started hearing the good hum of, oh, okay, yeah, we know what they're doing now.
That was the day of the bucket truck.
Yep.
Because we watched those stupid bees swarm and land on that oak limb. And Lance and all his brilliance. Hey, I'm gonna go get the bucket truck.
Worked out perfectly.
Dumbest thing I've ever done for bees today, anyway. Good grief, they talking about them mushrooms going for $65 a pound.
Dude, what?
The morals mushrooms. Shoot, I'll be a mushroom growing little fool for $65 a pound. That's insane.
No wonder people get out and hunt them things.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Dan said they taste good though. Okay, that's a new one on me. Island Honey says chicken of the wood mushrooms have the texture and kind of taste of chicken.
Everything tastes
Now, I
like
might could handle that if it's really the texture of chicken and not the texture of the mushroom.
Yeah, I guess to her it's like chewing on a Goodyear tire. Just ain't nothing good about it.
Yeah,
They're not easy to cultivate.
that's okay because I'm probably not going to dive off into that anyway.
I never knew it.
Swarms will sting if can't.
I don't know. There's not much in our blood down here that is safe to eat for the most part. Mushrooms don't. What?
Mr. Dan said you can't grow them; they come from above.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know, y'all. I'm lost on this.
Well, there you go, Mike. It's like, oh, Larimore might be able to hook you up. Said he can get sale for $5. About another week or two. You can hold on just a little bit longer. Uh-oh. Well, y'all, we have officially derailed.
Completely.
But it's good. We're into the food section, right at the closing part. So we're in our
Gary
normal.
said that chicken of the woods always grows on dead oak trees that have fallen and started to rot.
Is that the wide?
Like half circle?
Yeah.
I thought that was a fungus.
I have to look them up and see what it is. If that be the case, then yeah, that means it's all around here. Especially on them old
We're
oaks.
probably not that lucky.
What are y'all's drones looking like, Pastor Larry?
We have had drones for quite a while. We had drones early. Let's see, when we start seeing drones? End of February?
Yeah.
We had, we've had full drone. We got hives now, of just frames of drones. We've got a great drone population. They were early on. We started seeing drones, but yeah, we've had full mature drones for quite a while now.
Okay, good deal. Well, it's encouraging for anybody waiting on them return flights then.
Yeah, we've had some of our mating to come back, and laying. We still got some jury still out on, still waiting on, but the ones we've gotten several that have gotten mated. So
We got 4 more to check, but it's too soon for them to check yet. That was out of what? 12, 14?
14, really 15, counting that 10 frame one. Yeah, they don't always follow the calendar. We go by what everybody says, and we try to mark them. The ones we put sales in, and you don't know exactly, when they're made, but so we kind of figure the longest it should be for them to emerge, and then the longest we figure it should be for them to go out and get made and start. And so to try to keep us out of there, we put that latest date on it, so we don't want to get in there too early. And we started going in them, and we would, it wouldn't be anything, and we thought maybe we had a lot of duds, and then we waited a while and went back into them and found the queen in there laying eggs. So we're just a little early on them, I guess. But the math wasn't mathing with mine, according to what everybody says. But I found that to be true a whole lot. But so to me, it's taking a little bit longer than what I thought. But thankfully, I'm glad to see some. I looked through so many didn't have eggs. And I said, I about forgot what an egg looks like. I was glad to see when we started hitting some. I said, well, I ain't giving up now. Starting to see some eggs, and one we didn't think had a queen in it, we put in a bigger box, and we went in it, and she had eggs yesterday. So it's always good when you see them eggs shining.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, we've had drones. Our drones were early. I know a lot of people are talking about just starting to see drones, but we've had full mature drones for quite a while now. But that hadn't been an issue with us.
We'll see about ours, and let's see. We're gonna have a little bit of rain
What did Larry Moore say?
Tuesday. I think we're gonna have a little rain. Then probably about Thursday, we'll
Got 12 return maybe.
make our official run to Lansing and split.
You know, somewhere Larimore had in his comment, he had 12 returned, mated, and laying.
Yep, he started off good and early this year. Listening to him and watching, he was a few weeks back talking, worrying about getting honey bound and splits and all.
Running out of equipment.
Yeah,
Right,
Larimore's about an hour and a half, between an hour and a half, 2 hours to the east of us. But he's not all that far. Might be southeast. They seem to be a little bit warmer there than we are.
But I guess it's all that location.
Mm-hmm.
Just because we just far down south don't mean we're gonna
No.
get after it first, I guess.
Mm-mm.
Where we at?
Bees will swarm, so just hang in there. Because, like I said, ours is early, but when the condition gets right, you ain't gonna stop them from that. So they're out there. They're gonna swarm eventually. Hopefully, y'all will pick up down there.
I believe it will. We're so antsy about getting more here back at the house, especially since we done got that one little swarm from the other week. It's like, okay, waiting on the next one.
Now
Still
we're
waiting.
like bouncing on the edge of our seat waiting on the next.
Yep.
But maybe it'll get so wide open we won't know what to do.
I believe it will. I just think we're actually maybe on time for a season instead of jumping in early or a late freeze coming, put everything in a bind like a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've had a lot of stuff blooming. Like y'all said, a lot of the flowering stuff. They've been a lot bloomed out early. I guess it's on time, but we've had a lot of cool weather in the mornings, and I think that's really hindered. Well, I know it hinders the bees from getting out, but what I understand, it has to be a certain temperature before they really produce that nectar. And so I think that's now we're at the place. Our lows are rounded off now. Just started this weekend, like 60 for lows, and supposed to be in the low to mid 80s for highs, pretty consistent. And I saw the tulip poplar. I've been looking at them, had some low branches. I've been looking in, see what I could see. But the last few days we had those 80s. I looked in there and you can see the nectar just seeped out on the leaves up under those blooms where the nectar's been in it. So, but I think that's kind of held ours back as far as making anything because we've had a lot of real cool mornings. It's held us back too. That's why we've been working 6 days stuff too, because we can't get started into them. A lot of times it's 1 or 2 o'clock, before we get into them. So we've had a lot of cool mornings and then it warm up. So looks like we're leveling off for some good warmer seasonal temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we'll be a little more steady on the flow from here on. But yeah, them cool mornings I think really held things back.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Even with him just mentioned there. All right, y'all in the Carolinas up there, we're just about as extreme South Alabama as you can get. And I've been looking at the tulip poplar, but nothing yet out of the tulip poplar as far as blooms. You know, it's putting on good leaves and all that for the new year, but I haven't seen any blooms on the tulip poplar in our local area right there or here. And like I say, it's just crazy. Y'all's is, you know, pretty well getting it. Now I have seen some honeydew.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we might have a bit of a mix of a good honeydew in between the wildflower and the privet if that continues to crank on up. But I will keep on having a look see for them tulip poplar.
Mm-hmm.
Let me get back here. I just seen that. Appreciate you very much, Steve. Daisy's honey. Thank you, bro. But yeah,
I see where Larimore said their privet had started blooming there. Like I said, they're east of us, but ours hadn't started. I looked. We got one down there right beside the bee yard. I've been keeping an eye on. Looks like it may be at least a week or two out. Looks like it's just wanting to start to bud, but it's nowhere near blooming.
Well, if Keith has a good year on that tulip poplar, I'm gonna be hitting him up to order a bottle of that honey.
and well, Keith Larimore said that Chinaberry blooming good up there too. So maybe it's going to be a good year of that Chinaberry blooming. Which used to a lot more people had Chinaberry in their yard than what they do now. A lot of people think it's just an old nuisance, but it does have its benefits, especially keeping some critters away.
I didn't know Willis put off anything for them to make honey. Bernard said Willis and Maples make really light, sweet honey for them.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know Willis put anything on.
I didn't realize Holly did, but it does.
The holly?
We got a lot of holly over there in one place.
Mr. Dan,
appreciate you, Mr. Dan. Everybody out there. Who got it?
Is the white holly. Good night, Mr. Mike.
Minnesota Mike got one. WMD got one. Mac.
Miss T.
Yep.
In Tempest Creek.
Tampa Creek, good to see you.
We appreciate that, Mr. Dan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, we fit the motor too, Mr. Mike.
Yeah. We gotta go be big kids tomorrow.
Yep, start the real world again. A lot of hawthorn.
Oh, I'm with you, Gary. Mr. Dan Weaver sent us some of his black locusts for the honey tasting one year, and oh my God. I know they're opposite ends of the spectrum, but I honestly don't know which one I like better, the tulip poplar or the black locust. I'd have a tough time choosing.
That'd be an easy pick for me. It would be the black locust.
He doesn't like the dark honeys at all. I like them all, but I tend to lean more toward the dark honey.
She does. So it does level out. I like the lighter sweet colors. She likes that fall showing up.
I do. I like them dark honeys. No, thank God, Mr. Dan. We are not driving 2.5 hours each way tomorrow.
No, so them days is wrapped up. I got a video I've been meaning to put out to show y'all. We finally got that place finished up over there. Just ones of you that like to see a little bit of outside of beekeeping.
What did you use for the thumbnail? I didn't even see the picture.
The thumbnail's that gray beard.
Oh, it's I think it's called a Grancy gray beard.
Pretty trees. Man, the things is pretty.
Pictures never do them justice.
Now, if they'll grow around your zone, whatever your zone is, if they'll grow in that zone, I highly suggest getting a couple of them things and putting in your yard.
Gorgeous.
Yes. Well, Janae, Jack, thank y'all. But yeah, I think that's the right name. Can't see something graybeard, but
I think
they
it's
pretty.
Grancy Graybeard. It's either Grancy or Nancy, but I think it's Grancy Graybeard. That's right. I don't have to share.
Oh, she don't. The ones that she finds that she likes, she kind of just puts them to the side a little bit. Where
The only one I actually hid from you that wasn't a dark honey was DC Blackberry honey.
mm,
And I don't have to hide the dark honeys because I know you're not going to make me eat them anyway. Well, you do like them in honey butter. Because I use a lot of the dark ones for honey butter.
see, I kind of look like working with both. A lot of folks.
I know. Holland honey.
Yep, some like it, like that stuff, the fall stuff, and some people I like that spring.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you about ready to wrap it up there?
Yeah. I know Pastor Larry's had a long day.
Indeed.
He's probably ready to go put his feet up by Miss Leona in there. Hit that recliner.
Pastor Larry, thank you again for coming on and sharing the word with us and chit chatting. And Miss Jan, it's good to hear y'all were. I know y'all tired, but it's good to hear y'all having a fine season up there.
It might be different this week, but last week and the weeks before has been busy.
Yeah. Well, a little break, I think, will probably be good for y'all. Have a slower week, huh?
Well, maybe you can get your queens done now that you got all your queens pretty well taken care of for the most part. A week or two lull. Now to give them time to kind of start getting eggs and building up a little bit, this and that. Then hopefully your next big run in will be like, we don't have enough frames and supers, y'all.
Well, we didn't tell you we got, was it 12 more queen cells in the incubator?
Oh, y'all.
Real points coming out your ears.
Oh, yes.
Well, if you get in a bind like we did that one year, then just holler at some folks and say, hey, look, we got virgin queens, X amount of dollars a piece. Come and get them.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a missionary that him and his wife and his family, his daughter and all, had been in Africa mostly all their life, and they retire and they come back. He used to have bees when he was here, and so he wanted to. He's got a lot of fruit trees and things in his garden, and he was wanting to have a hive or two back at his place so that he could. So we went down there and we set some swarm traps down there at his place. So far, he hadn't got any, but we're gonna. We've done got so many hives. We're gonna take him a hive and set him a box up. Them that Randy dipped for us, we're gonna set him up a thing because they spent their life on the mission field. So we're gonna bless him with that. So I guess the Lord's blessing us.
I was gonna say that's why Jesus is sending y'all all them swarms and queens, Miss Jan. Maybe he'll just keep putting people on y'all's way that could use them.
Yep, that's what it seems like. I got up the other morning, I pulled out the boxes for him. I said, okay, I know what if I get a swarm wherever, I said, I know which one I'm going to give him. So the one at the church, we got that one, so I'm going to take that one to him. I already named it. It's Lexi. Lexi.
There you go. She is set then.
So anyway,
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, DC talking to, I guess that person was.
You okay?
I'm losing it. I'm not functioning anymore.
It's well, yeah. We're gonna wrap her on up.
Yeah, but we really enjoyed having y'all again.
thank you for asking us.
Well, appreciate it.
Y'all have a very good week.
Y'all too.
Y'all too.
Good night, everybody.
Yes, ma'am. Y'all take care and God bless you. Lord willing, we'll see y'all on the next one.
That's
All
it.
right.
No.
Good night.
Good night.
Well, guess that's it for today. See you next time at Gunline Bees.